One time in the spring, I was at camp with my sister. The camp was outside the city, in a small village. The camp was not fenced and had a large territory. The children lived in buildings that were far apart from each other, and in the very center of the camp was an old building that was no longer habitable. It was closed. The windows were boarded up, and this enclosure looked like a nobleman's house. It was green in color, and it always attracted my attention. I always wanted to go inside and see what was there. This house looked very mystical. The guys at camp told me that a ghost lived there. The ghost was the spirit of a girl who died there. The ghost scared everyone who was in the house. After that, I wanted to go there and see the ghost even more. My friends and I used to walk not far from the house, and one day we got lucky. Our teacher had to go in there and pick up some tools. My friend and I, of course, were already near him and asked to go in with him. Our teacher let us, but on one condition. We must always be near him and not go anywhere. When the door was opened and we were inside, I remember very well the feeling of joy and fear. Inside, the house was just as I had imagined. A huge spiral wooden staircase to the top, faded wallpaper in a flower, wood and half rotten, some paintings on the walls. It also smelled damp, musty. It was very gloomy. Daylight and light from the open door barely penetrated through the gaps on the windows. Such a creepy atmosphere that it really seemed like a ghost lived here somewhere. In fact, as the teacher told us, the building was closed because it was not habitable due to dilapidation. The floor could fall through or something could fall from the ceiling at any time. But it was much more interesting and fun to think that a ghost lived there. This story happened to me when I was in 6th grade. In winter, we had some lessons cancelled at school, right in the middle of the school day. We had to spend 2 hours somewhere. Basically, all my classmates went home. My friends lived very far from the school. They had to take a bus home and they didn't have time to go there and back. They didn't want to sit at school, and I suggested that they come to my house to visit me. There were 4 of us friends, and I was the only one who lived near the school. We went home together. On the way, one of the friends suggested that instead of sitting at home, it would be better to take a sled from my younger brother and go sledding. I, of course, agreed, especially the weather outside was very warm. When all rolled up and there was enough time to take the sled back to my house and have time to go back to school, we went to my house to take the sled. But in the middle of the road, my friends changed their minds and decided to go straight to school because they didn't want to go back and forth. I was indignant because they were the ones doing most of the sledding and I had to do it alone. I was told, "Your sled, take it away yourself." I was very offended and went home alone. I remember walking down the road and almost crying. When I came to school later, they came up to me to ask me why I was offended. I didn't answer. I just walked away, and they wouldn't talk to me. After that incident, we stopped being friends. I didn't want to be friends with people who were just using me, and they didn't really want to be friends with me because they didn't even try to make up with me. I was going to go on vacation to the sea in the summer. I invited a friend from work to come with me, and she also suggested that her childhood friend come with us. I was also familiar with her. We often met, went together to the movies or shopping. I of course agreed because all 3 of us had a good relationship. It was a very long-awaited trip, and I was counting the days until we left. We decided to take the train. Everything was fine on the road. We were constantly taking pictures, laughing and chatting. But as soon as we arrived and checked into the hotel, my girlfriends began to behave very differently. they started to shut me out. All my offers to go out or take a walk were rejected. We went out only when they both wanted to and only where they wanted to go. On the very first day, we didn't even go to the sea. We just walked around the city and the stores. Everywhere I didn't call them. They told me to go alone or walk alone. Even on the excursions we went on, they got on the bus, always alone. I didn't pay attention to it at first. I thought, well, one way they sit together, back will switch. But they sat the same way on the way back. My mistake at that moment was that I was very shy to ask why they were behaving that way. I thought that everyone's interest should be taken into account, and since we came together, they shouldn't be throwing me around like that. I was terribly bored and uninterested with them, and this vacation was the most unfortunate for me. When we returned home, I practically stopped communicating with them, and they did not really show. And so, over time, our relationship stopped altogether. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new episodes. Share your stories and impressions in the comments, and maybe your story will become a masterpiece in one of our upcoming videos. Let's dive into the world of slimes and stories together.